So in monastic life, whether you're living it or thinking about maybe doing it, living it, one of the training practices here voluntarily is to commit to rethinking about our relationship to our family. This is in regards to who you place in your field of love and compassion. Here we're training our minds and opening that field of compassion and love to include all living beings without exception. That's in the Mahayana tradition, that's in the Bodhisattva practice, and that's in the renunciate's practice as well. So to wean ourselves from our attachment to our near and dear ones and work on our bodhicitta, like Venerable Jampa said last night, as fabricated as it is. And to come to fully recognize how hard this is and how much time it takes. It's no small task to work on our attachment to family and our near and dear ones. So love, wishing all sentient beings to have happiness and its causes, is a really big mind. That's one of the things I'm really starting to recognize. It's a really big mind. And wishing love not because they're special, like our family, but by the mere fact that living beings exist, that they deserve happiness and all of its causes. That is a really, really big mind. And when we visit our family, we get to see how we're doing in regards to cultivating this field of love and compassion to include all living beings without exception. Because in our culture, attachment to our near and dear ones is called the highest form of love. This exaggeration of all of their good qualities is basically what we have given the term love to mean. We've got them really confused. It's not that we don't love our families, but a lot of that love is completely entangled and confused with a great level of attachment, with varying degrees depending on what your relationship to your family is. I'm just thinking about this process over the past 9.5 years since I've been ordained. So for me, attachment to my family plays out in two ways. Either it has me believe that if I don't treat them special, I am somehow disloyal, indifferent, or uncaring. I have to be the way I think they think I should be, which is something Venerable says a lot, and I'm really starting to see that more clearly, how much I think that way. And that and I have a very intense attachment to approval and praise from them. And then what happens is, because I have this feeling about if I don't treat them special, I'm going to be disloyal to them, that all of this sense of guilt and obligation arises, which totally overrides any love that I have for them, any appreciation, any gratitude that I have in my life for my family. It gets totally like vanquished or overridden or tsunamied by this attachment, this sense of guilt and obligation. So that's one of the ways that attachment has played in my relationship to my family. The other one is that I find myself, especially when things aren't going well with my family, that I'm so attached to them that I can't think that my relationship can be any other way. I mean, for goodness sakes, they're my family. This is the way I'm supposed to feel. This is the way I'm supposed to think. So my relationship to my family has changed quite a bit over the years, and I wanted to share with you in a very, very short kind of way on how it has changed. In the beginning, and how hard I've been working on this attachment, which I didn't even recognize I had to the depth that I have. So when I first ordained, I had this commitment. I was going to go visit my sister. I ordained in 2007. I went to visit her 2008, and my brother and her family were going to be there. And I was committed. I was not going to be attached to them anymore. I was not going to treat them special, and they would just have to get used to it, because I was now a renunciate. I was giving up my attachment to them. So my first visit back east in 2008, I was so tight and so fearful that I would succumb to this attachment to my family. I had to keep my precepts purely. I don't do this, I don't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't eat that, I can't eat that. I was so anxious and so overly vigilant that I drove myself crazy. And I have a feeling in hindsight, even though they didn't say anything, I think I drove my family crazy. My brother came up, and we had this barbecue. This is true confessions. I think I hid in my room most of the time that weekend because they were drinking beer and barbecuing steaks, and I wanted to be clear that I didn't do those things anymore. That was the kind of thinking I had. I had so much judgment about their behavior, and I had a certain level of arrogance. I wasn't going to participate because I'm a renunciate, I have my precepts, and I don't want to be anywhere near that stuff. So I hid in my room after my brother drives 8 hours to come and visit me. And that my sister, who was so kind and has been so supportive of my ordained life since the get-go, said, Samke, whatever here in the house is yours. Help yourself. But I couldn't relax around it. I couldn't find any ease about it because I was holding myself so tight. And it didn't help. This was the first time that my brother, he's my twin brother, he saw me as a nun. This takes some doing for our families to see us in robes. It's a little bit awkward. You're not quite sure what to say. How do you start the conversation? But because I was so sort of self-concerned with how I was doing, that I could never bridge that little bit of a space there. I caught him looking at me every once in a while, I think wanting to connect, but just saying, God, she's a nun. She's a nun. My sister's a nun. And so I was so attached to my reputation as being this monastic, this perfect monastic, so attached to it that I ended up being a little bit, well, not just a little bit, but quite standoffish. So what happened at the end of their visit was that we didn't connect. In fact, it made it a little bit more awkward, and they left, and I had a sense of sadness about it and disappointment. So 9.5 years of working hard on my attachment to the approval. Each time I either visited or my sister would come here to visit, I could see myself slowly moving into not worrying so much about what they thought about me. To be a little bit more myself and to really just share my joy at being ordained. I really have seen over the years slowly backing away off of that attachment to approval and praise. And that now, as the years have gone on, I have some wisdom to know more clearly when I'm with them what I need to hold a little bit more closely in my heart as far as my precepts and my behavior, and where the circumstances are that give me a chance to be a little bit more flexible. I'm so much more at ease about being in robes that it's not, I see more clearly over the years how this has kind of moved on. And what became even more important to me this last visit is that I have to accept them where they are and who they are and what they think and what they believe and just let them be. I didn't realize how much my attachment from my side was having all these expectations on what I thought my family how they should relate to me and see me and understand me and care about me. And to just let that go. And just let them be who they are. So I had a recent visit. 2 weeks ago, I returned from being in Vermont. And the visit was just wonderful. It was just so wonderful. I set my intention before I went that I would just enjoy their company and hold my mind and my precepts in care and ease and enjoy. That was it. Okay, just be at ease, enjoy, love, share, and just hold what you need to hold and just have a good time. So this time Brian came up again, drove, 8 hours. We had so much fun. It was really okay to put up the Christmas lights and the garlands on the house. I was doing an offering to the Buddhas. As I was lighting up the trees and putting up all of this evergreen stuff, I was making offerings to the Buddhas as I was doing it. It was okay to watch a movie with them because that's kind of where we connect with the family. I could sit down and have dinner with them. There's beer and wine on the table. There's meat on their plates. It's okay. And part of it is because I'm clear. I'm not worried so much about what they're doing and what I'm doing and how they think and how I'm thinking. I'm very clear about what I need to do, and I can be really accepting. So the last night that we were there, we had a very honest conversation about what's going on in this country. A conversation that my family, well, Jane and I a lot, but Brian and I have never broached. Politics, religion, kind of over there. You don't really talk about those things. We ended up watching Before the Flood, a documentary on the climate change and what's going on in our world. And it's a pretty intense movie where you feel a little bit overwhelmed afterwards, seeing how much trouble we're really heading into quite quickly. And this is where there was a huge shift in this moment, because we're sitting there kind of talking about the movie, and Brian asks, he says, how do people who have such comfortable lives like me start caring about what's happening? How do we, all of us upper middle class people, very successful, very comfortable, how do we get out of our complacency and do something to help? He said, it's not affecting me. It's not in my face. I have a good life. How do I start caring about this? We're in trouble here. I see that. This is a problem. I'm part of the problem. How do I move myself beyond that indifference, that comfort zone? As long as it doesn't affect me directly, nothing to worry about. And this was a really hard, I could just really feel his concern and trying to, I could see him trying to move into this place. He said, he went from, it's not at my doorstep, so it doesn't matter, to it's hopeless anyway, so I might as well just enjoy myself. He kept shifting back and forth, this yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. And so what happened is the conversation continued, and Jane and Brian, they went into the kitchen, and there was quite a discussion going on that I didn't participate in. And so afterwards, when Brian left the next day, a few days later when I came home, I emailed Jane and I said, sister, I'd really love to know, what were some of the ideas? I gave him some ideas about how I get out of my complacency, according to the Dharma as best as I could. And she said, well, I had some interesting ideas that I wanted to share. So I wanted to share these with you because I'm on board with what Jane shared with Brian, and I'm really grateful for her articulation of her heartfelt feelings and how she cares about things and how she participates. So first of all, she said, in regards to my own actions, she said, I will work hard to stay hopeful, do what I can to engage with those who have different perspectives and political views, and not demonize them. All right, this is her promise to herself for the world. I will promise to work to support the women in my life, and young women in particular whom I meet and with whom I interact. She's an incredible advocate for young women. I will participate, if I can, in the Million Women March and be courageous about using my voice kindly, directly, and compassionately when I see injustice. So from my sister's side, this is what she had committed to. This is what she shared with Brian, because he had a lot of this sense of powerlessness and then this sense of complacency. She says, first of all, Brian, she says, it's easy to feel disempowered and hopeless and hard to be courageous. But if we take a small step to be so, we can make a difference. Number one for her. Number two, she says it's easy to find excuses not to act, to retreat into our lives of comfort and self-absorption, and it gets, as a result, much harder to risk failure and discomfort. But the small self-perceived sacrifices we make will have much less impact on us than we fear. If we just move forward, get out of this self-preoccupation with what's benefiting me, what's good for me, and to risk a little bit of hardship, risk making a mistake. And in the end, the fears are usually overestimated anyway. And this is what keeps us paralyzed. She also shared with him there is ego and narcissism involved in thinking we are too powerless to make a difference, or that we have to solve all the world's problems. And therefore, since we can't, why bother? She said, but a little bit of humility goes a long way. She also said, as historically, though changing, a country that has had Judeo-Christian tradition, she says, it has become very clear that we do not walk our talk and have forgotten that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers, including when they do something that upsets, angers, or hurts us. We're talking pretty much about the political situation and some folks who had voted in particular ways. She said, we forget that we need to care for them. They're our brothers and sisters. Our actions can inspire others to act as well. And it's critical not to demonize those with whom we seem to have fundamental disagreements about values, beliefs, and desires. So these were the things that she had shared with Brian. He got to drive home and think about them on the way. And I'm looking forward to being able to just connect with him and see how things went. So kind of in conclusion, is that as a result of this visit with them, I have beginning to move into this deeper love and appreciation for them that's really quite a bit cleaner. It doesn't have so much attachment to it. I mean, I'm still kind of hooked in. I still am attached to them. I admit that. But that provided that a space of love and openness is created, that after some time, and we're talking many, many years, that we actually have this connecting, this meeting of the hearts that we'd never had before. And that this attachment that I have gets addressed and reduced in my mind, that I'm starting to see my family differently. They're starting to be, rather than, here's my family in this field of love and compassion, and then there's all these limitless beings kind of in the background somewhere in their own little field that I sometimes notice but not really, is that after this trip, in my meditations, I see my family slowly sort of merging back into that group, and that group is coming a little bit forward. So they're actually merging more with this huge field of love and compassion that I want to keep my mind focused towards, and not so much where they're in this special little field all by themselves where I spend a lot of attention on them. So that's kind of what happened in my visit. They have been accumulating my practice because attachment to family really gets in the way of developing and generating our bodhicitta. And we can't become Buddhas if we have only these little family units in our lives that we, to the exclusion of everybody else. Like Venerable Yeshe said, she wants to love all of us like she loves mudita. I want to love all living beings like I love my family. So may that be true. And so someday.